everybody, welcome to the Donut Hole, your place where a couple of guys sit around and pontificate. My name's Paul.
And I'm Jason.
And we're coming at you not from our studio, but we're actually on the road at the moment. So we figured we'd kind of do a mobile show today. And, just kind of get, break up the monotony a little bit. We're always in studio doing it there. So we're testing out some more of the mobile gear. I'm obviously shooting this on the front camera of my cell phone. We're getting a bit of a glare, which kind of sucks, but hopefully, whatever. We're just going to have to deal with it. So, Jason, what are we getting into today?
Gonna do a little bit of a Sunday Fun Day Gun Day.
Hey, that should be fun. I know initially we were going to try to go to the gun show that's over in Dixon, Tennessee today, but it's a little bit of a drive, and we both had a lot of things we had to take care of this morning, so we didn't manage to get to that because, well, actually at this point we're on the road now, and they would be closing in 30 minutes, and it's an hour away. So that's out. So instead, I think we're going to the gun range.
Yeah, gonna do a little test, and seems like it might be a little Eastern Bloc versus U.S.
Well, actually, I only brought one Eastern Bloc.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I did bring one, though. I guess we can talk about some of the guns we brought. I brought a Makarov PM, which was the sidearm and still is in some use by the Russian military today, but it was the Eastern Bloc sidearm for the Soviet Union, and it was also the gun that was used. They also made them in East Germany. They made them in Bulgaria, which is the example I'm bringing today, and they also made them in China. So definitely a really cool gun. The cartridge was used by pretty much every Eastern Bloc country. Some countries chose to make their own actual sidearm itself, but they were all chambered for the 9x18 Makarov cartridge. I was thinking about bringing some of the other, what they sometimes call variants, but they're not really variants, they're different guns. But I didn't. Well, I guess I'll just run down the list of the other guns I'm bringing. I'm bringing a Canik TP9, a Canik 55 TP9, which is their first iteration of it. Recently had to replace the front sight on it, so going to be testing that out. Those of you that don't know that much about that particular firearm, it's more or less a clone of the Walther P99. Also bringing a Taurus PT92, which of course is more or less a clone of the Beretta M9 or the 92FS. Also bringing a Spanish-made Star BM, which is a kind of like a scaled-down 1911 in 9mm. Should be fun. What else did I bring? So we got the Canik, the Makarov. I'm missing. Oh, and then also the little Taurus PT, or the Taurus Spectrum, the 380. I think that's it. This is the problem when you have too many handguns.
Right.
I'm thinking of the ones that I have at home and the ones I brought. 1, 2, probably edit this out.
2 hours later.
Makarov. Oh yeah, that's all of them. That's 5 of them. That's the 5. I knew I brought 5. Yeah, that's it. So, anyway, Jason, what did you bring today?
Brought my everyday carry, the Ruger LCP 380, little 6-shot single stack.
Okay.
Brought a 38 Special Bodyguard 5-shot plus P plus revolver from Smith & Wesson. Kind of looking to get rid of that one. Not just really haven't bonded with the weapon, so to speak. Then I brought my my Glock 19. So just your classic Glock compact 9mm.
Okay.
4th generation. Don't like the finger grooves, but other than that, I really like that weapon. And then the Ruger Mark IV target pistol, 22 caliber.
Cool.
Great gun. Just super accurate. Fires great. Got the bull barrel on it. Just cleaning and breaking down is terrible on that weapon, but it's a great gun anyways.
Cool. So we should have a little fun day gun day at the range here. If conditions permit, we might try to do a little bit of filming inside. Don't know how that's going to work out. It may work, it may not. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, even if we don't get any audio, we may be able to get at least some, some video of the targets and the guns themselves.
Yeah. So there's that. I think we got a little bit further to go, so I guess let's talk about some current events. Of course, we know what's going on in Venezuela is pretty hot. It looks like there's a lot more support for the opposition there, which is good. Of course, there's still violence and what have you in the streets, and Maduro, screwing his own people over.
Yeah, I actually saw a funny meme. Not to say this is true, but it was a funny meme. It showed the Venezuelan opposition with basically a U.S. military issue firearm with a $1,700 Trijicon on it, and they said it looks like the CIA has been spending some of their cocaine money. just a little funny joke there. But, it does appear just from photos like that they are, not necessarily from the U.S., but they are getting some help from outside sources.
Well, outside sources basically means probably indirectly from the U.S. at the end of the day.
Sure.
Really.
Arms dealers that have connections and whatnot. But honestly, I'm not opposed to it. Those people are suffering. It's gotten to the point where people are eating dogs, and they do need some help.
Well, not just dogs, but also like zoo animals.
Yeah.
And, like all kinds of crazy stuff. I believe approximately 25 to 30% of the population's already fled the country.
Yes.
From my understanding.
I heard they actually had a stat, and this is a stat I've never heard, but they said that the average citizen in Venezuela has lost 24 pounds over the reign of Maduro.
Yeah.
And that when you average that out to include middle class and rich folks, that's pretty shocking.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing too is Venezuela used to be I believe it was the most well-to-do country in South America at one point.
Yeah, it was. From my understanding, in the '60s, it was a very fashionable place for Westerners to move, coming up to be what people would consider a first world country.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I think they were either the second or third most well-to-do nation in the Western Hemisphere at the time.
Yes.
So it was kind of very similar to what like Iran was back in the before the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Where it was very prosperous, very Western, very forward-thinking, and then of course it goes to hell when the wrong people get in.
Yeah, it's my understanding that pretty much next to the U.S. and Canada, if you were in the Americas, that's where you wanted to be.
Yeah, and it's obviously fallen quite a ways since then, which only brings about to kind of showcase what socialism basically does in the long haul. There are some. This is the weird thing about socialism and communism is there is just enough good to get people interested and hooked on it, if you will. Because like any system, there's pros and cons. No system's been exactly perfect. We can criticize capitalism here in the West and say, okay, well, they kind of fall short here, this falls short there. And there's the good parts of communism, if you will, that have seemingly got people hooked, right? For example, I know in the Soviet Union, in the apartment blocks houses, like every apartment block house had like a little park attached to it. So people always had a nice little place to go. Their kids could run around and play. Like, there's a lot of things that were quote unquote taken care of. And these are the kind of like free entitlements that people get hooked on when it comes to socialism and communism. But at the end, it just does not work.
Well, it's the debate that Zizek and Peterson had. The one thing that I've always said that Peterson said as well is communism just does not take into account nature.
No.
Whether that's human nature or actual nature. It just it assumes everything is altruistic. And if everything was altruistic, hey, it'd be a great system. But that's not the case. Human beings are flawed animals.
Exactly. So, at the end of the day, communism works great on paper. It's not a good system overall.
I think it all basically comes down to power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, everybody in this world thinks that they can run the world better than it's currently run. It's just like the whole syndrome in any job you have, everybody thinks they can do better than the boss.
Yeah.
And then when, they try these ideas, come to find out they really can't.
Well, that's the whole notion that you hear time and time again is from people when it comes to socialism and what have you. It's like, well, true socialism or true communism hasn't been tried. And really, that's just a kind of a cop-out answer of, well, if I were the boss, I would do things different.
Yes.
I know, because when I was a hardline communist, back when I was young, believe it or not. That's what I thought. That's what I would always say. Is like, well, real communism has not been fully tried. We need to really implement it and all this other crap. And, that's really where I was coming from with it. If I were being fully intellectually honest, is, well, if I were in charge. And that's ultimately, I think, what led me away from that philosophy was I realized I'm not in charge. I'm not going to be in charge. Some of the idiots out there are going to be in charge, and it's going to suck.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about the Western world, and it's not perfect, and there's definitely things we can improve on, but is the whole idea of the invisible hand. And that's how we behave as an economic collective has a lot of power in this society rather than one guy centrally planning it all. So everybody all the way down to the bottom, even with their small amounts of spending power, have an effect on the economy.
Yeah.
Whereas centralized planning consolidates that power into just a few folks. And if those folks become corrupt, it's all over with.
Yeah. Which is ironic, because there are actually examples of quote-unquote communist nations that have embraced capitalism and done really well. I think the first example that really fully embraced it, at least to some degree, would have been probably Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
They engaged with lots of trade with the West. I mean, they imported their crappy cars to the West via Europe and the Americas. But still, they were engaging in commerce, which actually I think let them kind of stay, going along for as long as they did. And then, of course, we have examples such as like China and Vietnam today, which are supposedly, allegedly communist, but let's face it, really aren't.
No, they're just one-party systems that happen to be capitalist.
Yeah.
And really, I don't even, everybody can say they're one-party systems, but there's splits within the parties. And, it's just communist in name only.
Yeah, and really, the only part of that's quote-unquote communism is the authoritarianism of the state.
Right.
With China being worse than Vietnam. Because at least Vietnam, they have real internet and Facebook and stuff.
Oh, speaking of Facebook, that's a segue I did want to get into with the recent news. Is the banning of quote-unquote far-right figures, even though they included Louis Farrakhan in that, which I would not consider a far-right figure by any means.
Yeah.
However, they have set no real standard, and to me this is becoming, and of course they're a private company, they can do whatever they wish. This isn't government tyranny, and people talk about censorship, and it's their right to do that. However, I would like to see some standards. For example, it was my understanding they banned certain people for having Gavin McInnes on their show, which seems bizarre to me. But Fox News has had Gavin McInnes on. He used to be a contributor. Those type of things. So are you going to ban Fox News from Facebook? Obviously Minister Farrakhan is a rabid anti-Semite. And you can see there's the reasons why, but then they banned Alex Jones, but two totally different issues.
Yeah.
So I would like to see them specifically state they just did some generalized promoting violence and hatred.
Yeah.
The promoting violence, absolutely understand. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
When you call for violence, we're going to get rid of you. I understand that. That's even in the U.S. We don't allow that. However, promoting hatred, this is what can only be defined by the person running Facebook.
Yeah. It does become like an arbitrary rule set. And again, like you said, at the end of the day, they're a private company. They can do what they want. Hopefully, with the way this is going to continue to go, that there'll be the launch of Facebook alternatives. That's what I'm really hoping to see come out of this.
Yes.
Or maybe even a platform that integrates into Facebook that's separate. That would be cool too. Hopefully it'd be another company that gets bigger than Facebook, and kind of replaces it overall. But it'd be kind of cool also if it could integrate with it. So it's like, if you have friends on Facebook, you have friends on this other app too, and you see their Facebook posts on your other app. And you can still communicate with each other, but it's a separate entity that you can post whatever the hell you want.
Of course, it is bizarre times when I would defend Louis Farrakhan, but these are bizarre times. And do I think Louis Farrakhan should be banned from Facebook? No, I don't. I think the man is anti-Semitic and hateful, and honestly, that's what he's built his career on, is hate.
Yeah.
But we here in America, we don't have hate speech laws, nor should we.
No.
And as long as he doesn't incite violence on his Facebook page, I don't think he should be banned.
Exactly. And that's really where freedom of one of the few places where freedom of speech really ends is when you say, "Hey, go kill people." That's not okay.
Yeah, and I almost think that Facebook may just end up implementing European standards in America because they have to implement them in Europe already.
Yeah.
Europe has hate speech laws, and Facebook is already having to tackle that in Europe. So, if I had to look forward into the future, I would think that they are just going to uniformly apply that, including in the U.S.
It's kind of funny. The other day, I was thinking back to the earlier days of the internet and how much more wonderful it was, with the exception of the speeds.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, wow, it'd be really amazing to have the internet of like 2002 or 1999 with today's internet speeds, and how glorious that would be. Because that's something I really miss. That's really kind of died. Is the early days of the internet when the NSA wasn't completely up your ass. The internet was a lot more deregulated. You really kind of say and do what you want on there, and there just wasn't as much BS with it. And now it's starting to become overly policed, and I'm not really enjoying it the way I used to.
No, and unfortunately, it is, and of course, you have both sides of the political aisle in America talking about how it's going to influence elections.
Yeah.
There was a poll done saying that Facebook basically skewed people in the midterm elections towards Democrat by an alarming amount, like 12% or something.
Yeah.
In battleground states. So that's pretty shocking. And then, of course, you'll have the left say that the Russians interfered. Of course, we know there was no Russian collusion now, but they would say that the Russian bots and trolls skewed it in Donald Trump's favor.
Yeah.
So either way you look at it, no matter which side you're on, that's also very scary that it's a social engineering tool that's basically not even controlled.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it needs to be controlled, because then you get governments involved, and then they make their agenda. So,
but it is being controlled by people with a narrative and with an agenda anyway. So it's kind of
true. And well, the problem is as I just mentioned before. Okay, so you say it affected Donald Trump positively, but it also affected Democrats positively.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. However, when you start imposing arbitrary controls, that may skew to one side only.
Yeah.
Which is very alarming.
Well, looks like we're pulling up here to the gun shop, or the gun range. So we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll hopefully see you guys inside.
Hi, I would like to take a minute to tell you a bit about Hero Song. Hero Song is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization set up to record the music of veterans, active duty, and first responders who also have musical ambitions. Music is great for the soul, and that's what makes us unique and ever so wonderful. Please check them out and consider giving them your support. Again, that's at herosong.org. Thanks.
I'm doing like you. I'm getting knuckle deep.
Yeah, it's a bad habit. I'm gonna go for headshots. It's gonna be like about the target level. See what happens.
That's what my backup's this one here, little 43 block.
Yeah. That's what nighttime. Nighttime, I either work 15 or my two.
Yeah, they're making them decent now. They're putting,
Well, I'm selling the 40s now.
yeah, that's this one here. I like the 40 cal, but 9's gonna do the same thing. You can get
Yeah, you get a couple more rounds.
more reliable. Doesn't have that big flat nose on it.
I got my 40.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the content. If you are, make sure to press that like and subscribe button right down there. And if there's any material and stuff you would like to see us cover, we're more than happy to do that for you as well. Hope to have some new content coming out for our Patreon subscribers. Those of you that are, in the mood to do that, we also have one of those. Should be pretty easy to find us, The Donut Hole Show. And, yeah.
Yeah, and once we get some more subscribers, we'll probably start a merch store, do some mugs, some hats, things like that. You know, we're just now starting out. Hopefully this episode got our audio quality fixed and continue to move forward for you guys and offer more and more every week.
Yep. So, thanks again, guys.
Alrighty, guys, we're back from the shooting range. So a little post-mortem on the gun range trip. So Jason, I don't know, out of the guns that I brought, which one do you think was your favorite, so to speak, that you enjoyed shooting the most?
I would say the Canik with the 2-stage trigger I liked a lot, just because of the trigger mostly.
Yeah.
And honestly, I like that Taurus when you put that other slide on it.
You know what's hilarious with that is after I got it back from you of switching out the slide on it, I kept having failures to eject on the new slide, and then I ran the old slide, and it worked fine.
It was the opposite for me.
I don't know. I think that thing might be... I might have to trade it in, sell it, retire it, do something with it.
But I just like the weight of it. You know, it's an older... because most of my firearms are modern, and they're quite lightweight.
Yeah. Yeah, because you brought the Glock, and you brought the 380, the Ruger LCP, I believe it was.
Yes.
And those, lightweight polymer firearms, they definitely have a different feel to them. I remember when they first kind of were really making it big on the scene, I always thought they were really top heavy.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny, the Ruger LCP is not top heavy at all because it's so small, but it's by far out of all the weapons I fired today, well, with the exclusion of that goofy 38 Special, it's pocket carry gun. It's reliable, and that's what I need it for.
Yeah, so that was fun. Trying to think what else. I don't know, I think out of all the ones I brought today, I think I enjoyed shooting the Makarov the best, just because it's kind of what I started on as far as handguns back in the day. Out of yours, I think, obviously, probably the 1022, or the Ruger Mark IV Series 22 pistol. That was probably the most fun.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun target pistol.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I get to have fun breaking that down tonight.
Yeah, I don't envy
And that's
you.
the most important one to clean, because 22 is dirty.
Yep, so I don't envy you in the slightest.
Yeah, got a bunch of residue on us we can clean off when we get to the house. The others will be very easy. That one, not so much.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing, too, is all the handguns I brought today are pretty easy to take apart. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about the Glock, and really the LCP is the same style. Just take that spring out, take the barrel out, and put it all back together.
Yep.
And I rarely take apart the trigger assemblies. That's a once every couple of years kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool beans. So what else do you want to talk about?
I'm trying to think of what's been going on. I did read an article last night. It was pretty funny. There's a segment of the Republican Party trying to push the Democrats to impeach Trump.
Oh, nice.
That's kind of funny. Just so that goes to show you the political folly of the panic they're going through with Trump. Which, in all fairness, I have to admit some of that happened on the right when Obama was in office. I mean, how many times did they have an impeachment vote on Obama in the House? Which I have to say was not justified.
Yeah, most of the time it wasn't.
As much as I didn't like some of the things he did, it was not justified. So I think that's kind of the road they're trying to go down to, show the American people how much of a moral panic this is with the left. That was just funny.
Yeah, it's kind of irritating. I really am looking forward to the day when I can kind of write the United States off and leave it all behind me.
Yeah, the political situation in our country has gotten so extreme that when I hear people talk, especially working in a restaurant, you hear a lot of people talk at tables and other employees. I've found that people don't really vote based on policy anymore.
No.
They've just pretty much chosen a side based upon whatever characteristics they choose it on, and that's the side they pick. I've heard people who vote Democrat every time that talk about how they want lower taxes and less regulation, and I've heard people that vote Republican every time talk about how they want more welfare programs.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost just common people in America don't even know the positions or the platforms of the party, I think. Well, low information people, I will say.
Wow, do you see the idiots crossing over there?
It's Nashville for you.
Holy fuck.
And I think they just pick a side. You know, it's kind of like a sports team now.
Yeah, it kind of is. Unfortunately, I think a lot of politics, not just here, but probably abroad as well, are kind of that way. It's more like sports team kind of shit. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, and it's just, a lot of it is just low information voters, and I think a lot of people don't realize how some of these people are intelligent folks. They just don't do the research they need to. And they just kind of snatch the headline or the first paragraph of articles and make their decisions based on that.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me how many New York Times articles you can read where the first article seems like it's slamming Trump, but then by the end of the article it seems fairly benign.
Yeah.
If you read through the whole article. And that's how the journalist can get away with saying, well, it wasn't really biased, because if you do read the whole article, it does even out. But most people don't, and they know that.
Yeah, they catch the headline, that's it.
Yeah. Or the first paragraph, and hey, I know what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's become fairly, and honestly, as we're seeing with this economy, and I honestly don't think who we elect has much to do with everyday life anymore. Most of these policies don't affect us.
Yeah.
As just, regular, average middle-class citizens. The tax cuts may have some. Other than that, most of it doesn't affect us.
No. That's more left to local politics.
Yes.
On the, city, state, county level kind of stuff, which nobody participates in anyway, so.
No, and that's important. And actually, when I first moved to Nashville, I thought, hey, this will be great. I get to participate in politics in a city, because where it really matters.
Yeah.
As living in small towns, it's nothing that most people even care about. However, with the influx in Nashville, it's become, which Democrat are you going to vote for? Much like many major metropolitan areas in this country, there's not really much of a choice. Their policies are pretty much 100% exactly the same. Now, you may get the occasion where one's against the transit plan and one's for it, and those are the things you really got to watch.
Yeah. But again, that's which Democrat you're going to support.
Yes.
It's like crap.
Yeah, so the one difference may be something like the transit plan or the soccer stadium. Everything else is lockstep with the other one.
Yeah.
So, you become pretty disinterested in it because there's no real true opposition.
Yep.
And it'd be nice if, because you would think cities would be a great place for these third parties to come about.
You would. And so every once in a while you see that on like local levels, but usually the only time when a third party really has any headway, it's like at like the county level or like the little small municipality level.
Yeah. Because in a major city, which I wouldn't say Nashville's a major city, but it's a mid-tier city, it would be nice to see some third-party candidates coming with some different ideas, but you just don't see it. It's even gotten to where Republicans don't run in certain areas because they know they have zero chance of winning.
Yeah, like Chicago.
Yes.
Which then brings about the ability for the left to scream because then, the Republican Party themselves are not running a candidate, but somebody will claim to be a Republican that's like quacky as heck, or possibly like one of the even alt-right goofballs.
Oh, yes, like this guy who's a Nazi.
Yeah. And then that basically just breeds a further fervor of, oh, look, the Republicans are running a Nazi. It's like, no, not really.
No, this is just a goofball who claimed he was a Republican.
Yeah.
Who has no chance of ever winning anything. And I love when they say, well, they won the primary. Well, when there's no challengers in the primary, of course they're going to win the primary because no serious candidate would run in that district.
Yeah, and the guy got like 5 votes, so he won the primary.
Right. Which is probably, his weird buddies that are in his Nazi club.
Yeah. I'm surprised Colby hasn't come up with like a goofy little like Viking club, because I know he's into that.
Yeah, runes and...
Yeah.
whatnot.
But it'd have to be like an Irish Viking club.
Drinking from horns.
This is where I'd make another comment, but I'm going to keep it PG-13 for those viewers at home. But yeah.
But since we did have Sunday Fun Day Gun Day, speaking of politics, that is actually one thing we were talking at work, that is one issue that does span left, right, no matter which sports team you choose.
Uh-huh.
You find people that are pro Second Amendment on every side.
Uh-huh.
Now, I will say it's you pretty much only find anti-Second Amendment on the left side.
Yeah.
But, I have a lot of friends who are diehard Democrats who are for gun rights.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only other downside I find is some of the quote-unquote Second Amendment supporters you find on the left will be for things that's like, yeah, I believe everybody should be able to own a firearm, but we don't need AR-15s, and they'll be like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, or, we don't care if we ban the bump stocks, although you get a little bit of that on the right, too.
Yeah.
It's just awkward.
It's one of those things. I personally don't care about bump stocks, but it's why I try to explain to people that don't understand about the NRA is they think that they're such hardliners, but in our political system, compromise just basically means that's a half step further towards the other direction.
Yeah.
So everybody says they won't even compromise. They won't even compromise. Well, today the compromise is the bump stock.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to be next year? The compromise is going to be high capacity magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then what's the compromise next year? AR-15s.
Mm-hmm.
What's the compromise after that? Semi-automatics.
Mm-hmm.
You can go down that road forever.
And the next thing you know, the only thing we're allowed to have are, black powder, quote-unquote, firearms that aren't legally defined as firearms per the BATFE.
Yes. And I also don't buy into that argument. If the Founding Fathers would have known, I think if the Founding Fathers would have known, they would say that we could own an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was kind of the whole concept. So, I buy that. I don't buy the muskets only argument.
Or if they want to go with that, well, then your freedom of speech ends at, a quill and maybe a printing press. Go buy one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a silly argument. Or had they known that we came up with new words, they wouldn't allow us to use them.
Oh, of course not.
The language is completely different.
Well, it was kind of a short show. Jason, I think we're probably going to be off next week, aren't we?
Yeah, it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So we should probably spend time doing that.
You guys should, too.
Yeah.
Take your mom out for, a meal or send her flowers or something. Talk to her. Something.
At least give her a call.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, thanks for joining us today. Hope this episode turns out. Like I said, we're filming it on the go, and I know there was a lot of weird glare and stuff that came in from the windows, but hopefully it will turn out okay.
Yeah, and we're obviously not using our normal mics. We're just using our Tascam, which is normally what we use to record, but we have never used the mics on this before.
Yeah, we usually use the input jack on it, and using the regular microphones that you always see in frame. I think anything else? If there's any other content you guys would like to see or hear from us, like see us do, talk about, what have you, make sure to let us know. And
yeah, and hopefully in the future, hopefully this ends up good quality for you guys, and we'll do more mobile things. And if there's anything going on that you want us to go see and report on and do, makes it a lot more fun for us rather than just sitting around at the house.
Well, guys, happy Mexican Cinco de Mayo bit, I guess. Anyway.
Enjoy your Mother's Day. Call your moms. Go visit your moms. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Have a good one.